So our first panellist is probably no surprise whatsoever. Please welcome back to the stage, now that we've provided a chair for him to sit on, Antoine Besseyre des Horts. Perfect. Now, let's introduce you to some more panellists. Please meet Thatree Pangote, founder and design director of Rhyme Design Group. Rhyme Design Group is an architectural and interior design company based in Phuket, Chiang Mai and Khon Kaen. Rhyme Design Group is a collaboration of experienced companies who are specialists in their own field. Knott is a visionary architect specializing in luxury architecture spanning villas, condominiums and public buildings. He has over 23 years of experience. He integrates advanced technology with passive design principles to create functional, distinctive spaces tailored to each project. He's recognized for combining refined, tasteful luxury in spatial experience with forward-looking, futuristic, and distinctive design. Welcome to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, please welcome Swaviman Das, Senior Director, Design, India and APAC for Space Matrix. To say that Space Matrix design workspaces is to put it too simply. In their words, they build flourishing communities, consciously designed workplaces that create positive and sustainable business impacts, and who ensure that workplace wellness is not just a box-ticking exercise. Swaviman himself is a seasoned design professional with over 18 years of experience. He's led and delivered numerous projects across India for leading global and domestic clients, including several award-winning workplaces. He prides himself in creating highly versatile and innovative designs that are experiential, experimental, and deeply contextual. All the O's. Thank you so much, Swaviman. And last but by no means least, please welcome Hayden Djakic, Senior Associate from Buchan. With 5 offices across Australia, global architecture and design studio Buchan believe in shaping places that have a life of their own and that push progress and uplift the people in them. Hayden's a senior associate who has over a decade of international experience across hospitality, commercial and mixed-use developments. His expertise spans concept and master plan development, adaptive reuse and sustainable design within complex urban environments. Beyond his project work, Hayden serves as RAP champion within Buchan's Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, respecting the country and its First Nation people, and is instrumental in the studio's sustainability strategy. What a lineup, ladies and gentlemen, your panel. Thank you. So, let's start with Knott, if I may. Innovation, as we know, we've said it several times, our central theme this year. Your work in architecture and interiors has played a major role in shaping the new face of Phuket. Congratulations on that. How did that design vision first emerge? What does innovation mean to you in that context?
Okay, before I answer the question, let's talk about Phuket context. To let everyone know what Phuket is. Phuket is a small island of Thailand and known as Andaman Pearl. Phuket have a turquoise sea water and white sand beach. Beyond the natural beauty, Phuket has Sino-European architecture. And Phuket is number 2 ranking of the tourism revenue, surpassed by Bangkok. In the past 20 years, Phuket has transformed slowly from local to global. People come here in Phuket not only for the tourism, they want to live there. And it's focused on investor focusing because the growth economic. When I start the project in Phuket, is strictly with Balinese style for both architecture and interior. So, for my thing that for the vision, I think the project, it look almost the same. So my vision was clearly, I want to create something differently, something out of the box, something unique. So I decided the project, Bottega Duali, Horeca, the Valley is project is on the hillside of the Phuket and have sea view with futuristic style. And I start this project because it just come with concept with why. Only simple word, why. Why the planning want to be like rectangular shape form or box form, or it can be more curve or fluidity. And why the interior wall want to be straight line, it can be more slope. And for the corner, it's only for the solid corner curve. It can put more curve or like the, like the C2 glass for it. This is sample of I try to achieve my design. And for that means for this project, I want to create a thing that it not have the boundary about the inside and outside. That means for this one, innovation it come to the part. That means the material must be can put from the outside and resistant for the weather and come to the inside. For my part, it means innovation is for it like the tools that make your vision come true. Yep.
Not, thank you so much for giving us that introduction to Phuket and the project. Appreciate it. Swaviman, your work consistently brings together innovative thinking, intelligent space planning, a distinctive visual language as well in a similar way. What's the key ingredient that delivers consistently that spark across your projects, do you think?
Thank you, Etholle, for the question. For me, I would say at the core, curiosity is something, a little bit of curiosity always stays there from the origin of anything that we think. So curiosity backed up with clarity. So when I'm saying clarity, it is the fundamentals. Once the fundamentals are clear to me, visual language itself becomes like an outcome. We don't have to really work hard towards it. Secondly, there are a lot of ideas which keeps coming. I mean, I love to muddle a lot of different ideas and possibilities, explore new possibilities, and then try to filter out or kind of distill the idea which is completely refined and apt for that particular project. So that definitely is something which enables me to bring some spark into any of the projects that we do. Beyond that, I mean, every project, it has its own, it is an exercise. It's a meticulous exercise when it comes to, again, understanding or deciphering people, different personas, the space, in fact, the context, the brand, and all of it together. When all of these ingredients you have, it becomes like you have to have a magic touch to it where you can make or do better at that particular recipe. So that is something which I would like to talk about. And beyond that, there is something which I love to do. I mean, rather than always classifying or categorizing projects or sectors or clients into one, saying like, okay, sector one works this way and sector two works this way, or a client from financial sector would be so and so. Like, there's no fixed formula. So rather, all of these ingredients, if we can mix match, sometimes it's quite interesting to see what you create when you connect some unusual or unlikely dots which are not meant to be.
So don't make assumptions about, just because they're in finance or education, they're this way or that way, yeah?
Right, yeah, I mean, so one live example, we were working for Boston Consulting Group, and they're into consulting, and very like straight-edged kind of attire when it comes to functioning operations of that whole firm. Very formal, the way they operate, aesthetics-wise also, it was all very formal. But yeah, we challenged that, and questioning that, as I said, like curiosity, if it is there, and you question that why, and ultimately we could co-create with the client something which was absolutely way different than what I mean, the client was envisaging earlier, where now they have a basketball kind of a cage inside. There's a recreation kind of a space, which is right clubbed with a juice bar. There are street kind of art done in the cafe. There is a food truck. There are live counters. Like, this is not at all their vibe, like how it was earlier.
It'll be interesting to know how that impacts their work in a positive way as well. So that, yeah, very good. We'll come back to that later. Thank you so much. Hayden, it's great to hear what inspires people and you know, where this creative spark comes from. So let's talk about you. Your approach to design is shaped by a fascination with the psychology of architecture. And how, and I think we've touched on it before, how the built environment, and especially with your presentation, Antoine, how your bathroom environment drives the senses and becomes that word experiential. Why is this so important to you in your work?
Experiential design really is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. We're all talking about it, and we're all trying to figure out how we actually achieve that through good design. And Antoine, I think, touched on it really well in his presentation earlier, but it's all about our senses and how, as our human psychology, we experience space. We are driven by what we feel, how we emotionally connect to the spaces we inhabit, whether that be live, work, or play. But all that then is distilled down really to our five senses. So what we're touching, what we're seeing, what we're smelling, feeling, and even our taste. So particularly when we're talking about like a hospitality environment, and we've all experienced that today, that can go so far from what you see from a urban scale perspective right down to you get to the fine-grained nature of what you're eating in a hospitality space and how the story of design and the narrative that flows through whatever the concept has come out through the process goes right down into the very nature of how you're actually what you could potentially be drinking, eating. And if there's a narrative that connects all of those components together, it is incredibly immersive, and that creates that emotional connection, and so you remember it. You're potentially enticed to come back to something as a repeat visitation. So, and that goes across multiple sectors, whether that be from a retail environment and what you're smelling as you move through like a food court destination within a shopping centre, or the smell you get as you move into a hotel. Many hotels now, for example, they've got actually an essence in the air conditioning, and that's to trigger your sense as you move into a space. So there's some real interesting factors that actually, play on how we actually experience a space.
All right, we'll come back to that storytelling. So hold that thought, because I want to come back to that in a bit. Antoine, thank you so much for your presentation. I know I've said it already, but it really was inspiring. Let's take that a bit wider, because looking at rapid urbanization across this region in particular, high density projects of course can be stressful urban living. So what are the design approaches as we head towards the next decade and practices that we can use to redefine these urban projects and make them more experiential, to turn every experience into something of a sanctuary? It's not easy, is it?
No, it's not, and I think this is what Hayden mentioned as well. Like, it's, first of all, it's a process. We're all trying to figure out, our living environments are evolving. People living in these living environments are evolving, right? If you look at, older generations versus younger generations, very different, let's say, ways of living. There are, new phenomenon. We talk about rapid urbanization. For example, multi-generational living is something really happening. So I would say that's probably one of the things that we need to consider more and more, especially because of rapid urbanization, is how can spaces be more transformative? So I talked a little bit about that. If you look at a space like a bathroom, but that's very true for a living room now, it cannot be static, right, in its usage. So it needs to evolve. So it means that, through the design, the layouts, the products that we provide, it needs to be able to transform over time, right? So I think that's one very important point. Second is, we touched a little bit on that as well, the ability to personalize the space. I think the home has taken a much more, is more important than ever, right? We're all living in a very stressful world. And so the home has really become that sanctuary, that place of self-regeneration. So how can we tailor the space from, in terms of emotional benefits, but also in terms of practical benefits? So I think, in general, what can we do to advance that? There is, of course, the idea of wellness is linked to that second point, where, again, what kind of products, technologies features into the space can we, integrate so people can really indulge into these important time, personal time. And then the last I would say would be, and we see it a lot with younger generation, so being like brands working in the water space, water delivery space, we see that now it's no longer a question whether or not we should address sustainability. It's mandatory. And there are many ways we can do that, but sustainability should be really at the forefront of everything we do, basically. So those would be probably those four elements, I would say, that can address maybe some of those evolving around rapid urbanization.
I think that's interesting, and also I wanted to talk about, that's what we're, as architects, as designers, that's what you're delivering. I wanted to talk about a little about the expectations of the client and how, and I think you've touched on it there, how that's been changing over time. What's your experience of the biggest change in what your clients are asking you for now?
Yeah, I think the thing has changed is to have a cost. And as I noticed, the first thing that changed is come from COVID pandemics. Yeah. That means in that time people will be locked down. And I will talk about this because it's like my work is mostly in the villas. So we talk about the first is COVID. When people lock down, and it can't go anywhere, so they must be stay in the villas or something. That means villas from day to day, day to week, and day to months or many months they can go, and then realize that Phuket is a good place to live. And also, as you know, the Phuket have the good internet also, so they can work anywhere. And the second cause I think it have shift the people expectation is for Russia and Ukraine war. That means for me, I think Asia still have more peaceful places that people want to stay. That means they choose Phuket and like to be a second home. And the first that before villa. The design of the villa is approach to the resort style. That means, as you know, it have function, but it's not full function. It's not enough for people to live there. So for now, it's just transform from villa to home or homey. That means more function will be add on as like it's like the formal criteria. When you do villas in the Phuket, that means the working room to be add on, the pantry, island, and hot kitchen, cold kitchen, even so like the gym or whatever. This is the people. That means people need villa that more practical to live for.
Thank you so much. Swaviman, in terms of workplace design, what is it that employers and employees are now looking for in a workplace, do you think?
Yeah, that has kind of shifted a bit now, where employees from both ends, from both sides, the demands and expectations are changing. From an employee perspective, they are expecting more flexibility, more of experience, whereas from an employer's point of view, people are expecting more of productivity, or maybe culture building is one prime one which is there. So culture building, retention, and talent attraction is something which people are looking at. So I mean, no more workplaces are no more like where you go there just to work, but it has rather become like a place where, a hub where that would be actively supporting you or enabling you to be your best at work. So that is happening, and so just to work towards that, what we are doing is we are creating adaptive kind of ecosystems where there's a bit of fusion between workplace and hospitality. There's a bit of fusion between workplace and retail coming in. There are fusions between a bit of lifestyle infused with kind of workplace that is happening. So smallest examples like a vegan counter, that's a lifestyle intervention. We're creating a small bakery which is open to all and not just for the employees, so that they can intermingle and have, there are few spaces which is more flexible for them to work. So these are aspects which employees are expecting these days.
Well, thank you for that insight. going to come and work in one of your... No, I'm not, Stuart, don't worry. Hayden, let's talk about experiential destinations, because, we talk a lot, don't we, about well-being, and you've mentioned, I think, a few of the highlights of what people might almost unconsciously be experiencing and not realizing that so much thought goes into them. So how do you measure success, and what are you aiming to deliver?
I've had a few conversations over the last kind of day or so with a number of people on the floor about this, so apologies for repeating myself, but it's an analogy I really like to use when we talk about architecture. Architecture is like a symphony, and when you're listening to a piece of music, all the instruments are working as one. You only hear a single piece of music. Architecture and design is very similar. Good design doesn't mean you notice all the little details necessarily. Everything should work as a cohesive piece of architecture. If one of those components isn't quite right, that's the thing that you start to notice. And I think when we talk about the success of a design, it really reads as that cohesiveness. You feel at ease in a space. That being said, if it is meant to make you feel uneasy, that you want to be able to keep people moving through a space, then it makes you feel uneasy. And it comes back to that emotive response that you're trying to invoke. So I think that really is the measure of success to me. It's actually the people who you're trying to design for, and whether or not you've been able to key into the emotive response that you're trying to deliver. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Not if we're talking about the interior design side of your work, how do you see wellness evolving in interior design?
Yeah, I think wellness and longevity is a global trends. I think everyone will familiar with the wellness, so we talk a bit with the longevity. Longevity is not only to live longer; it is to be like extend your health span. That means when you at the 20 years, that means your vitality must be 50. And I think the interior that come to like sample for 3 keys to use for the wellness. The first one is to decide to bring the outside in, that means bring the nature in. Second is stay with the greenery. And the third one is for opening for the nature. It's just simple for the key to make it to the wellness. And second one is the design for the lighting. That must be matched with your body clock. For now, if you notice that we have the smartwatch or the link that you can track your sleeping. So the lighting is really disturbed if you not control it, so it's better to be interior design for it. And the third one is really important. That means you talk about the wellness design, and for the lighting is for the material. The material must be used like the non-VOC product, so it make the whole as the wellness. And for me, this trend it will be long and longer. But for the next thing that adapt from the wellness, that means I heard that Antoine presentation for 101. That means I think the next phase of the design must be like data driven for the design. That means AI will be the part of it. For now, we design the thing as a architect or engineer. We do design for the whole, for everyone, but not for one. If you have like the data driven for the AI, maybe they customize, like we cut the suit that it match only me, so we can custom anything. They will know your health and lot of the static. I think to be like that.
Thank you so much. Antoine, I'll come back to you in just a moment because I want to move the topic on slightly. Just staying with wellness for the minute. Swaviman, let's just talk very briefly, if you will, about campuses. Large, we've talked about small scale workplaces with a bakery or a vegan food counter or something. When it comes to an entire campus where you've got lots of people that you're looking after, why is well-being such a critical consideration there? And what are you delivering in terms of innovation in response to people's changing expectations?
Wellness somehow very strangely has been till today in some funny way has been sometimes considered as just a thing or an added thing to the project. I mean, sorry for that, but sometimes we do that, and it's called greenwashing. And that can be just an object, it can be a plants or biophilia, it can be just a nap room, or it can be like a program induced into the form. But there is, I would rather say it is more about collective well-being, which is not just individual, physical, emotional, or social, but it is all interlinked. So that way, then, plus when we are talking about these large campuses and GCCs coming, where there are, just imagine, 10,000 employees trapped in one glass box, conducive to work, but they're just trapped in a glass box. So when it comes to such a large scale, just imagine yourself just being a very minuscule part there. There are levels and levels, typical floors and herds of workstations all across. I mean, how would you feel there? So why I'm saying what I'm saying is it's not just adding these amenities for wellness, but understanding the psychological comfort factor of that person or the user. That is very important. So to somehow mitigate such stuff, so what we do is we try to somehow bring in or humanize that environment, what we create, and somehow make the space more livable. That is a stronger or bolder word to say, I would say. I mean, if it is livable and well harmonized and humanized, these are few things which would definitely affect wellness when it comes to larger campuses.
And I guess you have to, you might like to work in noise, and I might like to work in quiet. So it has to be adaptable to the person, the individual.
It has to be fungible, and it has to be definitely adaptable, as I said in the previous dialogue that we were having. Many times, like, it's not about a prescribed way of or a pattern of working okay, I mean, these are A, B, C ways of, functioning in a space, but the way people are understanding the space also starts understanding you. So there is a very harmonious dialogue which happens between space and people, and that keeps evolving.
Thank you so much. Antoine, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we are all individuals, so our perception of wellness, of luxury, it varies from person to person. We're seeing a trend for high-end residential projects across the whole region now, of course, and towards choosing not just the box tick, not just the yes, we're greenwashing, choosing sustainable, circular and bespoke offerings. So how is LIXIL responding to this evolving definition of responsible luxury to create these memorable experiences?
So, well, first of all, I think something that is being discussed here is very interesting, right? The next frontier when it comes to sensorial experiences. I think we all talk about trying to achieve another level of sensorial experiences. So what's being discussed is how do we move from curated experiences to maybe empowering people to tailor their own experiences. Technology, of course, can do that. It can also be by design, I would say. But if you think about it, if we think that the next frontier is to do more, to offer more, could that become contradictory to the idea of reduction, right, behind sustainability or optimization? I don't know if it's about reduction, but at least optimization. But I think there are ways that we can do that. Sometimes, it's just about small things, but sometimes we can change things radically. If we look at what LIXIL is doing, we have what we call an environmental vision, so we have a holistic approach to that topic. So what do I mean by that? First of all, it's about the way we manufacture products. So how we can reduce carbon footprint in our plants. It's the way we engineer our products. So we are testing with new manufacturing techniques. We were the first to introduce a cradle-to-cradle collection under Grow brand. We are also, and maybe that doesn't come as a first thought when we look at 3D printing, but if you think about 3D printing, it's also us experimenting with way to produce with the minimum amount of material possible. It's about also moving away from having to build inventory. So that part on experimenting with new manufacturing techniques, it's the way we package our products. So removing all single-use plastic out of packaging. But it's also the way we design our products. And this is where, of course, the design teams come here. And here, I firmly believe that there are things that you can do at a design level that help to, or let's say, encourage more sustainable behavior. So again, you want to deliver better experiences. We're all talking about that. But what can you do at the product level? How you design the product so these interactions encourage more sustainable behavior. So for example, making controls much more intuitive so people don't have to fiddle through the controls. So shortening the learning curve, right? If people go to a hotel or simply when they're at home, like can you switch on and off a product without having to, go through again the pressure set, the water, the temperature setting and so on. And then last but not least, and this is probably the most challenging part, is what can you do beyond, of course, what you see to innovate what we call behind the wall. And that my interest, like some of our members of the audience is, Grow, for example, has been very active in developing technology, for example, like EverStream. So it's a water circulating system. So it's behind the wall, you don't see it, but what it does is basically allows two modes. One is running water as usual, and as soon as you activate the EverStream mode, what happens is the water is being recirculated and you can literally have a shower for hours without consuming one drop of water. So here, of course, there is a bit of adoption challenges. Would we feel comfortable in, let's say, showering with the water that has been recirculated? But eventually, you see, this is what we developed those techniques to challenge the preconception of what a shower should be. There is even like heat recovery technologies that we have introduced very recently as well. So what can we do to optimize, energy consumption, and even to the smallest detail, like when we bring this EcoStart technology where everything you start on the faucet, it starts from cold. So you're not wasting energy. So there are plenty of things. Yes, maybe not, they don't look necessarily radical, but actually when we talk about sustainability, you have to approach that at many levels.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Couple of quick final points, if you will. Hayden, to you. We mentioned at the outset your Melbourne Walk project, and it's got this wonderful historic elements, facades, and stories. And you as the architects have taken it upon yourselves to disseminate those stories down to the end users. Just tell us briefly, if you will, why you've decided to do that and what benefit there's been.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about stories and narrative, it's imperative that projects have depth to them. You can have an amazing vision and an image. And we were talking about AI before, for example, and with clients coming with saying, this is a fantastic idea. Like I'd love something to look like this. But if you're unable to give it depth and reason for being, it can have the risk of being shallow. And that causes risk for brand. It causes risk for the how someone will actually experience that project and explore it. The word curiosity was mentioned before, and that's imperative because when we're leading people via the urban medium through a space, we want people to be able to explore it. We want people to be able to engage with it. The thing we were talking about before with sensors, for example, as you transition from a hard space to a soft space, the sound your footfall makes, for example, those components all make part of a story. So when we're talking about Melbourne Walk, for example, that started as a collection of buildings on a quite a constrained city site with a number of heritage facades. That then allowed us to take those buildings, which were built back in the 1920s, 1930s, and use some of those concepts that then came from the Melbourne Gold Rush to manifest an arcade narrative that came out of Grit and Glamour, again referencing Melbourne Gold Rush and the boom and bust of that period. But then that also led us to the next layer of that story, which allowed us to explore the people who made those times so incredible for Melbourne and its broader history. And that then manifests immediately in the hotel. So there's all these layers of narrative that are embedded in the project that allow for people to explore the story that's been expressed through the architectural medium. And that gives a project depth. It allows people to explore. It allows people to kind of find out as much as they want. But if somebody doesn't want to as well, they can see what's being created just from a more high-level perspective. And particularly for like a hospitality project, that's incredibly important because people love a story. That's how we engage with one another. That's how we talk to one another. So it's that human aspect that's coming back into design, and there's no replication for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Last question to you, Swaviman, for the moment. How do you make the business case decision to people who are very cost sensitive? That these more human-centered investments, they may term them as luxuries or well-being, experiential. How do you convince the decision makers that these are essential and not just nice to haves?
Well, that's a bit of pain for all of us. Yeah, and but yeah, we all go through that, and it is talking about cost, suppliers, timelines. I feel that has its own rationale, though. I mean, it's just that we need to have a balance between both. Whereas we are thinking stars and moons and constellations in a very cosmic kind of a world, being imaginative, whereas there are people who think more analytical, right? I mean, not just imaginative. So we need to draw a bridge between that. That's what we do. However, like what I want to mention is it's sometimes in projects, it's not only cost to design, design to cost, but we also, if we reframe cost to say like what value we are bringing in through design and what impact in terms of short-term, if we look at short-term benefits, it's the impact that it brings in, and versus in a long term, it can be also measurable, the ROI, the return of investment that we do. So there are experiences, there are amenities, and people are moving towards that. So we do all of that, but within a balanced situation. So ultimately, a well-designed workspace matters and impacts a lot of aspects, like be it retention, be it the culture, be it talent attraction, be it productivity of the whole organization and the business directly. So if we look at that, how design is adding value to the proposition or what we do is something. And it is not just, again, an imaginative world. It is also data backed up. Like it is hard data metrics that I'm talking about. Like in certain surveys, which says like about 62% of people feel more invigorating when they see a lot of natural elements around in design. 32% of people say, let's say, they feel very much calmer and very much, in tranquil when they get to see, art around infused into the design, right? And couple of examples, like 67 people say that they feel much more energized and activated when the focus is more on social spaces and recreational spaces. So these are hardbound facts, and that's how we need to tweak a bit of story when it comes to when we want to push our design into cost.
Okay, it's a good thought for people to take away with them. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? We've got time for probably one question. I can't actually, the lights are so bright, I can't see into the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Shout if somebody does. No? Okay. In that case, Hayden Djakic, Swaviman Das, Thatree Pangote, and Antoine Besseyre, thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.